The Recharge.
Hello and welcome back to The Recharge. I'm Ruben Gonzalez and that's Matthew Stanley, and we had our own sort of bye week. We were off last week, but we're back and we are fully charged, and so without further ado, let's get you recharged. Matthew, let's talk football. We had a week off there, and now we got an imposing team. You look at the Jaguars, and the Chargers are coming to their town, and a lot of talk about this defense of the Jaguars. Now, they've got a pretty young defensive unit. They look intimidating. What do you think about them? What's your thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars defense?
The Jags defense, it actually kind of mirrors the Chargers defense in a lot of ways. They really get after get after the passer. There, I can talk now. I've had too long off, guys. Sorry. So they really get after the pass. They really get after the passer really well. Calais Campbell and Ngakoue, they actually combine for half a sack more than Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, surprisingly. Bosa and Ingram have 17 sacks combined, and Calais Campbell and Ngakoue combined for 17 and a half. Overall, the Jaguars have, I think, 3 more sacks than the Chargers do this season. And yeah, they really get after the rusher, and then that really helps them on the back end where they're super athletic. I mean, their safeties are better than the Chargers. Their corners are probably slightly better, but that area is really close. And then their linebackers are much better than the Chargers linebackers. But they do really well against the pass. They actually have the number 1 pass defense in the league. They're only allowing just shy of 160 passing yards a game, and they have 10 interceptions. And so they really just have a good shutdown defense. I mean, the craziest stat to me was they've only allowed 4 passing touchdowns all season, which is just insane to me.
That's right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so their defense is really formidable, and the Chargers are going to have a really hard time on offense this week.
The Jaguars, their defense, it's that pass rush, and I think that's why a lot of teams, they shy away from passing against them. And I'm not sure how to beat this team, but they've lost 3 times. They've lost, I think, to the Titans. They've lost to the Rams, I believe.
Yep.
And was it the Jets? It was the Jets.
Yes, it was the Jets.
Okay, so those 3 teams, they're not world beaters, and they found a way to beat the Jaguars defense. And so I'm kind of giving the Chargers a little bit more credit here. I think on our Slack conversations, everybody's assuming that the Jaguars are just going to beat the heads out of the Chargers. So I'm kind of thinking they're a beatable team. They haven't established themselves. Maybe it's because they're young. Maybe they're learning how to win, but I'm not going to say they're not a bad defensive team. I just think their offense is, if there's a way that they can stop the running game of the Jaguars, then I believe the Chargers have a chance. But I don't know. And we'll get to it in a little bit. I think I'm going against the grain on this one, but I think I know a way to beat that defense. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, the Chargers had their bye week. Is it a good thing? So, I think years past, they come out of the bye sometimes a little flat, but it's a new coaching regime. Do you think this bye came at the right time and will be something good for the Chargers?
I do. I think the bye week came at a great time this year. It lined up pretty perfectly to have Denzel Perryman come back off of the physically unable to perform list. And the team kind of needed a little boost here, a little extra rest, because they didn't have any major injuries, but they've had some lingering injuries. They've had Joseph Barksdale fighting turf toe, and the only way to deal with that is to stay off it. So it was good to have him be able to stay off it for a couple extra days. Melvin Gordon has been kind of banged up through the whole season. It's good to get him some extra rest. Jatavis Brown has been kind of banged up. It's good to get him some rest. Yes. And it also comes at a good time for the Chargers to really sit down and evaluate. I mean, they've played in 8 games. They went 0-4 for the first 4, and then 3-1 for the second 4. So it's kind of a good time to go back and look at those games and say, okay, what did we do right in those second set of 4 games that we weren't doing in the first 4, and how can we continue doing those things and still make improvements? So I kind of have I have a little more faith coming out of the bye than in previous years under the previous regime, but it is a pretty tough test to come out of the bye, travel to Jacksonville for an early game, and take on that defense on the East Coast.
Yeah. So how are they going to beat the Jaguars? I put it there on the rundown. Are they going to beat them by Rivers or are they going to beat them by Gordon? What do you
I
think?
I think they have to beat them by Gordon. The Jaguars, while their pass defense and pass rush is very very good, they're definitely in the bottom half of the league in run defense. They're only a couple spots ahead of the Chargers in rushing defense, and if you listen to the Lightning Round podcast, and if you're listening to this and you don't listen to the Lightning Round podcast, you have to go start listening to the Lightning Round podcast. It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Jamie and Garrett
Most
do
of
a
the time.
great job.
Yeah.
But Jamie pointed out a really good stat that I found just crazy to me, was that since Melvin Gordon has been on the Chargers team, when he gets less than 25 touches, the Chargers are 5-21. When Melvin Gordon gets more than 25 touches, they're 6-3. So I think that they need to focus on getting Melvin Gordon the ball, whether that's running or passes out of the backfield, and just let this offense go through Melvin Gordon this week. I know there was rumors during the bye week that they wanted to open up the offense and let Rivers take it deep a little bit more, but this is not the team you do that against. They, like I said before, they're really good at creating turnovers. They have 10 interceptions, and as we've all seen in the last couple seasons, when Rivers decides to play that hero ball, things can get kind of scary. So I think this game, if you want a chance of winning on offense, it has to go through Melvin Gordon.
I believe so too. Gordon has to have a terrific game. He can't have one of those where he goes in hiding for most of the game, peels off a couple good runs, but then goes hiding again. You can't have that, or the Chargers can't have that. But I want to say the Rivers is going to have a good game, but these receivers are not very physical, and we know that that's a calling card for the secondary of the Jaguars. And I was hoping Ramsey would get suspended for this game. Like, it was wishful thinking, but I'm interested because I'm looking to see, has Ramsey went up against somebody like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's not the fastest guy, but he'll make you miss, especially if you're trying to put a hand on him on the release there. So I'm hoping that Keenan Allen will get open a few times. And then we got Hunter Henry. He's got to be into the offense. And so I think there's ways that the passing game can be different than what they faced. But definitely Gordon's going to have a game of his life. He can't. He's got to give Rivers a chance there, and that only happens if he's moving the chains. Talked about it earlier. Return of Denzel Perryman, the Hammer, but he's going to be returning to the team on the starting unit, but he's not going to be in the position that he's usually starting at. What do you think about that as the will linebacker?
I think it's a mistake. Hayes Pollard has been awful this year. I mean, he's got a lot of snaps, and in the stat column, he looks pretty good. He's got a lot of tackles, but all of his tackles are coming 6, 8, 10, 12 yards downfield, and he's not generally in the right position at the right time, and he doesn't look very athletic out there. I think they should have put Denzel Perryman. Melvin Gordon, where'd that come from? They should put Denzel Perryman back in the middle of this defense and have Jatavis Brown out there and rotate Kyle Emanuel and Corey Toomer. Perryman, what he does best is coming downhill and attacking the running game, and having him out on the wing at will. I feel like that kind of limits the impact he can have against the run.
I heard Perryman today talk about the position of being on the weak side, and he says it's going to free him up. He's not going to have to worry about those guards coming at him. So I guess he's taking the optimistic approach about it. But it's a head scratcher. We saw the stat somewhere that Hayes Pollard is like the second worst linebacker in the league. Coaching the coaching unit, they like something about him. And, we'll just move on because it is puzzling, and we can just talk about that probably all day. Cody Young, Bolts from the Blue Rider, posed this question to us on Slack again. If we had to redraft the 16 NFL draft, would we as fans prefer Bosa still or Jalen Ramsey? Good question to ask.
Yeah, it is an interesting question, and as fun as Jalen Ramsey is, as good as he is, and as fun as he is to watch on the field and listen to in the press conferences, Joey Bosa is a game changer, man. He does so much for this defense that, I mean, if Bosa wasn't on the field, I doubt Melvin Ingram hits that double digit sack mark, and this team would pretty much be in shambles on defense. Joey Bosa he's the type of player that you can build a defense around. Jalen Ramsey is a fantastic player. He's probably a top 3 corner in the league right now, and I'd love to have them both on the team. But given the same choice over again, I'd go Bosa all over again.
Yeah, especially because the Chargers last year got Casey Hayward. He proved to be a terrific pickup. And so cornerback wasn't as much of an issue, even though they did lose Verrett last year as well. There was always a big hole right there at the defensive end spot, opposite of Ingram. And so having Bosa there, presumably for the next 10 years, hopefully they can re-sign him. Hopefully Telesco didn't burn bridges last offseason with that. Hopefully Bosa's here for the long run. And yeah, he's just a model of consistency. And saw that record he broke the last time he played.
Yep.
20 sacks in 20 games. No one else has done that. So, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll redraft Bosa one more time. You can count us in for that. Let's talk about the Jaguars' prediction. Who do you got? What's the final score?
So this is definitely going to be a defensive game. I don't think either team breaks 20 points. I think it winds up being. I think the Jaguars win this game, only because I think that Leonard Fournette is going to be able to do enough for them on the ground, and they're going to be able to control enough of the clock to not give the Chargers a chance. So I think the Jaguars win this one 17-12.
Whoa, wow, field goal, huh? Or safety. What is that? Where's that 12 coming in?
It's a lot of field goals.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and predict a Charger win. We're going to hope that Gus Bradley knows his old personnel enough to where he knows what to attack. Maybe his talk to Wisnut about some of those tendencies. It is a different team. We are all assured of that, but so are the Chargers. They're not that same team that barely won a few games last year. So this is a team that we hope is trending in the right direction. I'm going to go ahead with the Chargers. I'm going to say 23-20. They pull it off, and that final touchdown to pull ahead is going to be thrown by Rivers. I don't know how it's going to happen, but they're going to get something through the air, and Jalen Ramsey is not going to be talking too much smack for this one. So, okay, so we got to the middle of the season in the NFL. Here, let's talk about some mid-season awards. We could run through these quick, depending on if we've got who's your MVP of the team.
I think the MVP of the team so far. We talked about this a lot with the Bolts and the Blue guys, but I think at this point it's. I agree that I've been kind of swayed at this point to agree that it's Melvin Ingram. He's just been playing outstanding this year. And the thing that kind of differentiates him is that all of his sacks, his 8.5 sacks, all of them the vast majority of them have come in very key situations. They've come on third downs to end drives. They've caused turnovers, like in the Giants game. They've pushed people out of field goal range. He's just his sacks are coming at the best times, and he's really finishing this year like he hasn't in a long time. So I think MVP right now is Melvin Ingram.
I'm going to go with Bosa for almost the same reasons as you said about Melvin. But Bosa's been a total team player this year. So he's helping Melvin Ingram get those sacks. He's taking on double teams while Ingram's shooting the holes there. I'm going to give it to Bosa because I expect Bosa to continue his model of consistency throughout the year. He's got 8.5 sacks now. That should put him up to 16, 17 sacks. He's been playing good against the run. Some strange reason, the Chargers are becoming a defensive team now, and so that's where the team MVP is going to come. Offensively, the offensive MVP, we're going to go ahead and say, wow, it's kind of been streaky. So we're going to keep. I'm going to give it to Melvin Gordon. It's not. It doesn't make it look good. Sometimes it looks sloppy. It looks ugly, but as he goes, so does the team.
Yeah, and importantly too with Melvin Gordon is he just became the first player since Marshall Falcon the year 2000 to have 4 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns through the first 8 games. So I mean he is producing. But my vote for offensive player of the year right now is Russell Okung. He has come in and he's been outstanding. He's been the best offensive lineman on the team. He's been consistent, and most importantly, he's been healthy. He's a big part of the reason why Rivers has only been sacked 11 times through 8 games, whereas last year, I think at this point, he'd been sacked 20 plus times. So to me, and Melvin Gordon has a lot of success running off the left side right now. So to me, Russell Okung is the offensive player of the year right now for the Chargers.
Okay. Defensively, I'll switch it up and I'll say I'll give it to Ingram for the simple fact that all the stuff you said earlier,
Yep.
Melvin Ingram is playing lights out as well. So it could go either way. It could be Bosa or it could be Ingram on those team MVP and defensive MVP. So
Yep.
I'll give it
Same way for me. I think you basically just flip a coin right now between those two guys. They're the two best players on the team. So if one's the MVP, the other's the defensive player of the year.
Okay. Rookie of the year for the Chargers. This one's a little bit difficult because the 2 players drafted at the top haven't even really played that much, and one hasn't even touched the field. So who are we going for Rookie of the Year?
So this one is tough. I think when you look at pure game time and what they've done with that game time, I think Desmond King is definitely in the conversation. He's done really well for himself, and he's been on the field a lot, probably I think the most of all the rookies. And so I think for the first half of the season, I'm saying Des King right now, but I will say that I think it's going to be switching very quickly to Dan Feeney because he came in and in his first start drew the best offensive guard grade of the week from Pro Football Focus. I mean, he just came out and played lights out in his first start. So I expect Dan Feeney to probably be the Rookie of the Year overall.
I'll agree with those. I would like to see Des King return some more. So I'll go with Des King as well. And, man, what it might have been with Forrest Lamp, right?
Yep.
Man, he would have been, who knows what.
Next
and
year.
then Mike Williams, too. Yeah. We'll see it all next year, hopefully. Now let's get to some of these different kind of awards. The Welcome Back Award. Who's the one player that you're glad is back this year, maybe from injury, maybe for whatever reason? This is the player that he was always supposed to be. Welcome Back Award. Who you got?
I like Keenan Allen. He's come back and been extremely reliable for this team. He's had a couple uncharacteristic drops, but I mean, I think he's still top 3 in receptions on third down for first downs. And with the way the rest of the receivers on this team have been, which is crap, he's the only good wide receiver on the team right now. And so having him back has been a huge help for this team.
Yeah, I'll go with Keenan as well. Probably too early to say Denzel Perrin because it happened during this season, but perhaps maybe if we ask ourselves at the end of the season about this award, it might be Denzel because who knows what kind of dynamic he's going to bring to this team. So for now, it'll be Keenan. Check with me at the end of the season. Maybe it'll be Denzel. So who's going to get the gonna get paid award this year?
I think it's Chris McCain. Chris McCain, he's in on a 1-year deal. Now, I've seen conflicting reports on this. He on a couple of sites he's listed as going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Yeah. But looking at the numbers, I think he only has 3 accrued seasons after this year, so that would make him a restricted free agent. So I'll have to look on that. But either way, he's going to get paid this year in a big way. He's gonna be a very rich man in a couple months.
Yeah, and last year that breakout player would have been Jatavis. Even though he was a rookie, he kind of made us all think that this guy was something special as well. He was gonna kind of take his job to the next level, but it hasn't really happened. So um, he's kind of maybe downgraded. So maybe that payday is not going to be so big for him yet unless he starts to do something. But Chris McCain, you're absolutely right. That guy has come out of nowhere basically, and man, I hope he's not going to be too expensive when the time comes. The What Were You Thinking award, I think we're going to be unanimous on this one. I think Travis Benjamin is the culprit here because he may have single-handedly lost the game against the Patriots, and
Yep.
it's up for debate, but it surely changed the momentum of that game, and so that was a big game to lose. And there's been a couple other things. He's come out big, but there's a lot of times where he made me think, "What were you thinking?"
Yep. He is the epitome of the come on, man. Like he could probably be on that show every week.
Next award is you've been traded award. Name the player that you wish was not on this team at this moment, contributing any minutes, any snaps.
Ooh. Um, I was hoping that before the trade deadline that they would have been able to get something for Corey Liuget. Um,
Hmm.
I mean he has been able to provide some impact a little bit this year, and especially when they reduce his snaps, he's been playing all right. But I think that Darius Philon has come a long way, and Damian Square that good enough rotation behind him that I really wish they could have traded him and got something for him, like a day three pick, like a fifth or sixth rounder for him would have been awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and say Hayes Pilar, but he's on the team for a reason. The coach and staff seems to like him, so I'm reluctant to say anybody but him. But check with me again on this award towards the end of the year. I might get some flack for this one, but Tyrell Williams is
Mm.
he's working his way on that one because he's not the Tyrell that we were thinking we were going to see this year. He's
Yep.
been really kind of disappointing. So I'm going to go ahead and say Tyrell slash Hayes Pillard. How about the you're still on this team award? Doesn't play. He has some big contract, but he's still on this team for some crazy reason. Who you got?
I mean, honestly, it's probably Travis Benjamin, but just for the sake of difference, I think
Hmm.
I really don't know why either Sean McGrath or Jerry Atauchu are on this team.
There you go. There you go.
Sean McGrath, he he doesn't do anything that you can't get from somebody else, and he basically was holding Sean Culkin off the active roster every week, who is already a better receiver than Sean McGrath is, and looked really good as a blocker, especially when they put him in at fullback and let him be a lead blocker. I think he's just so much more versatile than Sean McGrath. I have no idea why McGrath's still on this team. And then Jerry Atauchu, yeah, he looked good in that NASCAR front, but I think that's the only game he's been in this year, and he
Hmm.
hasn't done anything. So
That's where I was going to go. Jerry Tachi. He looks good sometimes when he's in there, but he's never in there. So when he all of a sudden showed up, I was like, "Whoa, you're still on here." But oh well. Jerry Tachi. Um, let's get to the mid-season predictions, and this is kind of the final one to kind of wrap up this recharge. Week 10 is what do you see the Chargers finishing out the rest of this year at?
so I know we've kind of been saying this every week at this point, but um, I think this week will be really key to see what happens because obviously looking back at the first half of the season, there's some things that need to change and some things that need to be done with more consistency,
Yeah.
like involving Hunter Henry and running the ball with Melvin Gordon. Mostly on offense is where the change needs to happen, but if the Chargers win this week, they they'll be at 4-5, and especially if Buffalo also loses, they'll only be a game back from a wild card spot, and they'll
Hmm.
only be 2 games back from the Chiefs because the Chiefs have a bye week this week.
Yes.
Um, and so if they can win this week, they still have a chance at the playoffs. If the Chargers lose this week, it's definitely
Okay.
all over. It's
Okay.
this is the week that if they lose this week, we can officially kill it because at that point they'll be 4 games back of they'll be 3 games back of the Chiefs and they'll be 3 games back of the wild card and it'll just be game over. Like they won't stand a chance to make the playoffs unless I don't even want to say an unless. It'll be done. So if they lose this week, it's no playoffs. If they win, there's still a chance.
Yeah. So I think you just sent that ultimatum. I think pretty much means that the Chargers are going to win this week because they're going to do that to us. They're going to pull us along all season, right there on the cusp of the playoffs, and that's just how it's going to be. We're gonna deal with that again this year. But you know what? I'm fine with that because last year was so miserable, falling to that record they did last year. Um, let's hope that something better happens. I mean, it's better to go to sleep on the end of a Sunday night knowing that the Chargers won than even if you're losing, hoping for them to lose for a better draft pick. It still doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I hope they can find a way to make us all happy. That way we can go to bed on Sunday night and wake up happy on Monday. People walk around the office happy all the time. And
Yep.
Us Charger fans, we don't get that very often. So I just hope they give us a lot more wins for the rest of the year. So I'm going to predict the playoff run. Hey,
Ooh.
what?
All right.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of The Recharge. Hope you enjoyed it. For Matthew and for Nathan, and also catch Matthew's podcast. Matthew, go ahead. Give a plug.
So as some of you know, I've taken over as host of Locked On Chargers. I'm actually going to go finish recording tonight's episode as soon as we get off here, and I'll publish an episode tonight on Thursday. And then, just come check us out. We're on your favorite podcast platforms, and I post on Bolts from the Blue and LockedOnChargers.com every week.
Absolutely good stuff. And if you've been listening to today's episode, you hear all those stats that Matthew's dug up, and he uses those on his podcast. So very informative podcast that he does. So once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week for another edition of The Recharge.